And believe it or not, I haven't finished yet, Nick. As the group leader, I have a waterproof writing pad for any incidents or anything we might, just in case, emergency pad. Now, you don't have to have one like this, but this is actually, I found in one shop. And actually that's like one of the waterproof things there. That's the obvious thing, which I'll come back to in a minute. And this is what I call, this is a crucial thing, more crucial than the first aid thing, is what I call, and people have heard me, I think, talk about this before, an ouch pouch. So, and Lorraine, I know, knows this sort of thing from when we had groups of kids out or young people out, you know, when they go, oh God, I've really hurt myself. And actually you just need to see them. So you get out your plaster or whatever. So there's just basic plasters and stuff in here and some tape. So you can put a needle on the, and they think, oh God, he's really done a lot here, you know, on this. And we feel, and I learned this from an instructor actually, one brilliant instructor I had at one time. And that is and it's fully waterproof, which won't surprise you. It actually is a first aid kit normally. And then, which we have used in U3a, I also have 1 or 2 tablets, which you're not meant to give out, obviously. But I do have aspirin in here. And no time today to go into all the details. But basically, if you have somebody having a heart attack, you need to get a dispersible, is that right? Aspirin down their gullet, basically. That's one of the things you need to do. So I do have an emergency, and I think 1 or 2 people have asked me for, what was it, you know, the ibuprofen, that's it. You did, yeah. And it did the trick, didn't it? And that's in the ouch pouch. So I do have a paracetamol, I have my own painkillers for my arthritis as well in there as well. So there's an amazing amount of stuff really, but it is a useful thing, whether you're out with a group or without yourself, because it's immediately accessible in the front pack of your rucksack. Okay? I'm not particularly going to go into first aid today.
So is that empty now, Charlie?
What?
Is your bag empty?
It is. That's right.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's a bit disappointing because you mentioned deck chair.
Deck chair? No, I haven't got deck chair. Well, you're quite right. My daughters joke at me. You know, we never have to worry when we go out with Dad because we have this stuff. Harris's sink. You shouldn't go over the top, obviously. And some of the stuff is debatable, and actually the first aid has got simpler. But at the end of the day, you need to take it with you really. And most of it's pretty obvious what you do with it. If somebody cuts themselves or dislocates, and some of the stuff I've had to deal with mainly with other people on the hills. One of the things when an accident happens, I'm not sure if there's almost too much to retain. But the first thing you do, if somebody has an accident or something's going on, is make sure you're all right. Not the casualty, you make sure you're safe. Second thing is the group. Make sure the group is, because, the stuff I've had to do is people sort of start panicking a bit, the Dad's army start, don't panic, which is exactly what they are doing. And the third thing is the casualty. So it's that order of things, and then you see, so you assess the situation.
Charlie, question. Talking about the order of things, you've taken all sorts of things out of your pack. I noticed that your first aid kit and whistle were right at the very bottom.
No, the whistle wasn't.
Wasn't it?
The whistle's in with the ouch pouch.
Right. The
whistle is in the front, immediately accessible with the compass.
Do you always pack it the same way?
More or less. I sometimes have arguments with myself because there's no, despite what I'm telling you today, you'll go, oh, Charlie told us. No, don't believe him. Don't believe a word. Because I have debates with myself for which order to, but you're quite right, that's a very good point. Which order do you want to put things in? I mean, this is just by my experience, and the dog adds to this as well when I have it out. Oh God, as people know, the dog always wants feeding because she refuses to feed on step it up walks days. But no, that is always near the top, and my map is as well. So, yesterday I had I know it very well, or pretty well, you know, I have a map in my pocket, the yellow map of Portree. But so in emergencies, I mean, you know, the art of common sense really, if you're out there by yourself, do not hesitate to let people know where you are, and that's what a good whistle is for. And is it 5 or 6 blasts? Six blasts on your whistle. Any do, but 6 blasts of the whistle, you know, as loud as possible on your whistle to let people know you've got problems. 6 blasts separated by, what is it, a minute, is it? You know, don't do it continuously. So as people know, oh, we heard that a minute ago. So the people know. I know it's daft when you're in the middle of a wilderness area, but most of the places we will go in Skye, there'll be somebody else, well, hopefully within reason, but that's not necessarily true. But the whistle is useful. It's not just that I will always have a whistle with me, always have done.
Is there another code other than just the emergency 6 closures? Because I seem to remember reading somewhere there's 3 different ones. There's one for are you there, one to answer, and something like that.
Well, I think, you know, probably use your common sense when people are getting close and they're trying to get your attention, you're trying to get theirs. So there's probably a bartering system there.
Yeah, there isn't any...
no, the six emergency ones are the thing. Yeah.
When you're doing teamwork though, Charlie, you obviously have your own codes, right? And in the Coast Guards we had 1, 2 and 3 and they all went, 1 went up, 2 went down, 3 meant stop.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Do you not carry a phone?
Yeah, sorry, I on myself, yeah, roughly what I've got today. In fact, that's my mini pouch, which I take, I mean that is with me on, you know, with the group, but even when I'm out with the dog, I'll take this out with me. That's got the aspirin in and so on, and the phone, yeah.
Yeah. Could I just change something I said a bit earlier? I said that technology can't keep you dry. Well, actually it can, because if you check the weather before you go, you won't go out in it.
Yeah.
What if you do, you wear your waterproofs?
Yeah. Yeah, so just a word on the compasses, we haven't got time, I will do with other folks when the weather is fine in the spring, we will pop it up maybe at Sligacombe and then do a bit of navigation outside. And today's not the day to do a full navigation exercise. But, you know, I mean, I just love maps, as folks know. But where is it? If people want to have a play with compasses, there's lots. Oh, there it is. So, interesting enough, when I first learned compass work, in the 1960s in the cadet forces, when I learned to navigate properly, I thought I knew it before then, but actually when I learned to do it properly, and the interesting thing is, this is my other grandfather's compass, prismatic compass, from 1916 when he was in the trenches. And this is actually exactly the same prismatic compass that I learnt on in the cadet force. And that's what a prismatic compass looks like. I'll pass it round. And you release it there, and it works just as well today as it probably did in 1916. And so this is actually a First World War compass from my grandfather. And so it was ironic that when I was in the cadet force, and that was more or less my youth group at school, in the combined cadet force, I had a wonderful man called Major Wardle, and he was a Second World War soldier. And he and his assistant taught me on the prismatic compass how to navigate. And God, am I so grateful. And that's really why I got confidence about being where I am. And anybody who's in the mountains who tells you they haven't had arguments with the compass are lying. I've got a great friend of mine that I was on the top of, in between Ennerdale and Buttermere in the Lake District. There's a big ridge in between. And actually I went down to Ennerdale by mistake and our car was in Buttermere because I did the classic 180 degrees wrong turn. And unfortunately you have to go all the way up, unless you want to go fit, because we were up at Forest Track now, there's about a 15-mile route, well 30 miles probably round. So we had to go all the way back, and he's never let me forget it since. So, you know, we all make mistakes. What did I do with the other thing I had? Oh, yeah, so the same grandfather, talking about whistles, this actually was his air raid warden's whistle from the Second World War. So, and this is what I started off with. I actually don't take it out now because it's a bit too precious. But that's the air raid warden's whistle. And actually that's the type of whistle you do need. I've also got a scout whistle from my grandfather as well, another grandfather, which is equally as good as that. But, so it's actually got ARP on it. I'll pass it around it. The other way.
Don't forget, Charlie has actually blown it, folks.
Oh yes, that's right, yes.
We're not all blowing it.
Okay. So yeah, I mean basically on the maps you need, and I'm not going to go into the full navigation because some people in the group know about these things and others don't, but various maps have various things. And as I know Ray knows from the history of map making, it's a relatively recent thing actually, is the full maps that we have now. And at one time it was very, very much political. So, you know, the Scottish maps were typical actually. When they first started mapping Scotland, it was post-Culloden. And it was actually because the army needed to control Scotland. So the original maps, and in fact the original, the foundation of the Ordnance Survey, was as it sounds. It was ordnance. It was about moving troops around the place, and it spread out the country and all the rest of it. And now, and basically, on the map, this is Loch Alsh, which is the south of Skye as well. But basically, we've got the grid lines, and I won't go into it all today, but that is grid north. The map that's always grid north. People are going to ask me what the magnetic variation is. There are some different thoughts about this. You know, it's about -8. You have to adjust on the map at the moment. So the compass doesn't actually point the same direction as the map itself does. You have to adjust it. But in a way, it doesn't matter. You can tell if you're going north, and believe the compass. Always believe the compass. Do not have, as I've had, arguments with the compass. Oh, it can't possibly be right. No. The compass knows which magnetic north is. Okay? And you've got various maps. This is one of the oldest maps I've got of the Grampians, as it is, which is an old cloth map.
Yeah.
Bartholomew's cloth map of the whole Grampians. You can see it's well used. I've forgotten the date on it, but so there are all sorts of maps. Can't fold it up now, I'm able to read it.
Give you lessons on folding maps.
It's like all this gear. How do you fold this now?
I tell you what I like, it's a modern idea if they put the map back to back.
Yeah.
So you can always bet that wherever you are, you're on the front and the back or just between. I like that.
Yellow maps. These are the most useful things I've discovered since coming to Skye,
But
actually.
the US ones are like that now.
Well, this is, yeah. And if you've got any doubts, I mean, I tend to have got, particularly the 2.5-inch ones, waterproof ones, but this is a waterproof thing for putting the map in. Extra equipment. And the thin ones are hopeless because they break and snap, and this is actually very strong. I've had that for years, that particular one. Okay? Somebody asked me about was it whistle or something else? What did they ask? Oh, what I took with me. Have I covered everything? More or less about what you take?
I think so, yes.
Blister kits, yeah, that's actually, I've got that in the first aid there. In the ouch pouch, yeah, it's a good thing to have your little tape in there as well. For
It's going to
blisters.
sound stupid, but you know, sunglasses can be useful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Especially in snow.
Oh yeah.
Especially if it's
Yeah.
we've been
So on the boots thing, I'm actually wearing a pair today of, is it all, I've got the name of the make now, but these are one of the ones I use, although I don't wear boots from Skye, partly because of arthritis, But because the shoes, waterproof shoe, I never wear anything but waterproof on Skye when I'm out. From the dog to the outdoors generally, even in summer. Sometimes in summer I do. But these are waterproof, and I have a couple of pairs of those which I just alternate each week and step it up. So, and these are fairly light. The technology has just developed so much. Very different from the three-season boots I was showing you. I got these partly in fun because they don't exist anymore. But these are what's called Lampler boots. And at the time I was living near Lampler. And these are original fell shepherd's boots with nails. This is what they used to walk in right up through the 50s. And you can feel the weight of these. I've actually on purpose got these. And these are original fell walking boots. And some of you will have heard of a fell runner called Joss Naylor, who's still alive, who lives in the lakes. He farmed in Wasdale. His family still do have a sheep farm in Wasdale. And the first time I met him actually was in the wild area between Wasdale and Ennerdale and the lakes. And I was going along, feeling very butch and magnificent in myself. And I looked in the distance, and there was this guy, and it turned out to be Joss Naylor, in a pair of boots like those and his sheepdog, running, rounding up his sheep. And it destroyed my entire image of myself, because it's just unbelievable. So I thought I was fit at the time. And there was he.
Those old shepherds were amazing.
And he became one of the best fell runners, you know. But they're amazing, those boots, aren't they? You know, when you think the technology, how it's developed since then. The one thing I would advise not to wear, you know, are sort of, you know, things, you know, some of the trainers you see advertised, which don't keep the water out at all. I mean, quite honestly, on most of the walks we do, in any of the groups in u3a or on Skye generally, even if you're by yourself, they're hopeless. You know, they really are useless, and also they're not strong. So when you know, and that's where the fashion thing, I think shoe wear is probably the thing that comes into fashion most. Oh, for God's sake, you know, these are really strong, good walking shoes, and quite fairly light. And genuinely what I use, but they're waterproof as well, they keep it out. And you do not want to feel wet when you're going out. But the technology has developed quite well on that.
Charlie, I was very interested when you said you don't favour gaiters, because we're the opposite.
Yeah.
You go out without gaiters.
Yeah.
And the reason that is, when you're fording and so on, you cross the ford, you don't get your boot full of water.
Yeah.
Now that must affect you when you go over those water.
Yeah, I suppose I sort of weigh it in a balance. You know, what do I need to do? And yeah, and sometimes I know I'm only going to be out for an hour or two, and if it goes over ironically, very near where I live, it was a classic walk, which I did, in fact we did with you two, didn't we? We had to cross the stream at the bottom. And about 2/3 of the time, that stream is impossible. So the number of times I've got wet feet in there, you know, before you. So I take your point, and it's a good point.
And they keep your trousers clean.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you've got to keep up standards.
And Charles, the other thing, of course, is as the years are passing, I'm afraid, you know, so many of us are walking with leggings now.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good point actually. It's another thing. In fact, I left my own stick in the car, but Joy was talking to me about where were the other sticks? Oh, there. People know I tend to use an ordinary walking stick, a foldable one, and I swear by it. And with the dog, I tend to use one now. But the best pair of sticks, I should have said by the way, when I talked about the ice, and that's a walking ice axe. It's not a climbing ice axe. So if people, and the climbing ones tend to be smaller, but this is the one I use in the hills to Nick will know. Sorry?
You're putting me off.
Oh well, that's why I didn't want to mention it, but it's purely winter mountaineering. It's winter mountaineering stuff rather than climbing. But I have actually used that in the Alps and the Pyrenees, and I mean it's pretty good. And the difference is it's more like a walking stick as well.
You can sit on that as well.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I've used it.
That
Oh yeah, and you can hack steps out and so on with it. Not quite the mother kind of These actually are the best pair of walking sticks, dual ones. That, I mean, as you can see, they're slightly battered now. The reason they're the best I've ever had is this. The clip on them is just, the adjustment is immediate. So I haven't actually had it out for ages. But also, it locks, some of the locks you get on the modern ones are not good. But this locks immediately. These are the best pair I have ever had. And I've not, even though I've had these for a few years, I've never seen a better pair. And I've got wasted ones at home, which are fine, but they're the screw ones, and you're all the time having to adjust it. But these are reasonable size. They'll go in a suitcase, but they'd also strap onto your sack, taking Bill Bryson's point about sacks and straps. But the key to these is this, it really is the clip. And these are black diamonds, and I've had these all over the place. And they clip on immediately. And I wish I'd discovered the two sticks. Probably I'd have better arthritis if I'd discovered the two sticks earlier.
Indeed. People on u3a passing the years. It's probably worth mentioning, isn't it, Charlie, that there's a lot of medical hard evidence now to suggest that the use of sticks throughout does prolong.
No, I wish we.
Well, when you're crossing anything that's sort of dodgy is great to have.
Yeah, well that's it. Strings, anything. I mean, I've used them all over the place. You know, in fairly extreme situations. But taking your walking point, I mean, you know, they are useful in the outdoors. But I just use the old-fashioned, similar style, and it's another one that has a clip on it as well. Just one thing, because I have the dog usually with me, so I need to keep one hand free also for the group and so on. But again, it's a matter of things. But definitely, if you're going out without anything else with you, the two sticks. I agree with Nick.
I mean, it's probably only caught on in this country over the past 10 years, but certainly on the continent, young people who pound a lot with the two sticks. You know, from the day they start walking. And they're still pounding along the age of 90.
So, just other bits of equipment, people are saying what else do you take with you, or what do you wear every day, and again I haven't got all that on display. These are the top of the range. This is what I'll be wearing in -20 to -30. Some people swear by mittens, I know. I find these much more useful for axes and this sort of thing, but even in ordinary cold weather, you'll keep warm with these, I can tell you. So, you know, this is the sort of the winter glove type thing that some people swear by mittens.
What's the argument for me?
Well, because the wind doesn't get in. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But, you know, I agree with Charlie, you need them, but we've always had those just when you're incapacitated. You just need to keep your legs back.
So, I thought they brought more pairs of gloves actually than I haven't, but I got the thinner ones than those. There are, I'm sure I did actually. Oh yes, these are actually some of my favourites again, these. They're not waterproof, but they're absolutely windproof. So these, you know, the problem for Skye is they're not waterproof, but you know, for your average walk out with the dog or something, you know, these, but even with the group, I mean, and again, it goes down to this wind thing, because the wind is what causes the chill. That's why it's called wind chill. And on a day like today, it's a perfect example of that. The temperature is about 3.5, 4 degrees. But actually, with the wind chill, it's bringing it down to about -5, 6. So you'd soon know about that, and this would actually keep out that. And even with hail or something like that, I've had these in various conditions. So these are sort of, they're not waterproof like those, but they're pretty, these are sort of slightly older fashioned ones, but they're pretty good gloves, these. So have a look at these if you want to. They're adjustable those as well. Hats are another thing that's controversial, aren't they? You've got the Nepalese style. And the reason they're very good, these, and that's why they have this style, is because you tie them and keep yourself warm. And the wool also retains, this is pure wool, this is a Nepalese hat actually, and it keeps the warmth in. And the problem I had was, like that shirt I showed you, the reason I swear by that is, in my early days, 60s, 70s, one of our local shops in Whitehaven had woolen shirts. They were fantastic. They were superb, and well, I could never wear them close to my skin because they used to come out in the bloody rash. I was pathetic. I used to have to have cream, so I had to wear a vest. That was the first problem. The second was, I went out one day, and somebody was saying, I didn't watch the temperature or the weather forecast, and I went out and it got really hot, and I was really sweaty, and I could feel myself feeling, I thought, God, am I having a heart attack? There's a certain tightness in my chest, and it had shrunk on me. So when I took it off, it was tiny, it was like a kid's shirt. And that was the last time I wore a whale shirt. I'm not joking, the whole thing had just shrunk. So those don't shrink. What was that? Oh, hats, yeah. That's my equivalent of I would take one of these out with me from now on till about February in Scotland. This is you can actually wear it as a cap. This is one of my best hats. Had this all over as well, and that's waterproof, but it also has the ear things as well on, so you can adjust it, and it keeps your ears warm. I know it doesn't look, it's not a fashion statement, well I think it is, but these are, but you don't have to get one of these. I mean, any hat, anything that keeps the warmth in. This is actually the one I use most on the hills, actually. Again, not a fashion statement. Same, because of the wool point that you were talking about, I got this and I wore this instead of my Nepalese thing. Same style, slightly, it's got a windproof sort of core to it. So, and this is the one that you'll see a number of pictures of me up hills like this, yeah?
Yes, that looks very elfy.
It is. I do bring it down to Christmas, actually.